My name is Primrose Everdeen. I was born in the poorest part of District 12, but I never felt poor when my father was alive. I remember the day the sirens went off at school. I remember waiting for him to come get me. Katniss came instead. That was the day I learned that sometimes the world breaks and it doesn't apologize. I was never meant to fight. I was never meant to be brave in the way my sister was. I was meant to heal. I was meant to grow. They said the war was to protect children like me. But I was the one who didn't come home. Primrose Everdeen functions as one of the Hunger Games trilogy's most powerful symbolic figures. Though her page time is limited compared to her elder sister Katniss, her narrative weight is immense. Prim is the embodiment of innocence, the justification for rebellion, and ultimately the tragic cost of war. Prim was born on May 11 in the Same, which is the poorest part of District 12. She has blonde hair and blue eyes like her mother, which normally means she lived on the merchant side of the district. The merchant side is relatively richer than the Same, though still poor. Prim inherited her features from her mother Astrid, who was from the merchant side before she ran off with her father Buttercup Everdeen, who was from the Same. Buttercup has grey eyes and dark hair. These features was transferred to Katniss, which made her hair, skin and eyes similar to those who come from the Same. Primrose was named after a medicinal plant. This foretells so much of Prim's interest in saving lives instead of harming them. The primrose plant does not produce edible food, unlike Katniss, whose name was drawn from a plant that was a major means of survival in the district during the Dark Days, according to Lucy Gray, the first victor of District 12. A primrose is delicate but resilient, often blooming early despite harsh conditions. This mirrors Prim's emotional journey from the girl who requires saving to the girl who eventually starts saving the vulnerable. Though her family was poor, it was a happy one until the tragedy of her father happened. In this moment, Prim can be summed up as the child of war who bears consequences without responsibility. On the day of her father's tragic incident in the mining, Prim was only 7 years old. She heard the alarm go off at school and she knew something bad had happened. She waited for her father to pick her up like he normally did, but Katniss was the one who came instead. This is when she knew that her father was dead. Mining explosion incidents are common fatal accidents in District 12. This same accident killed Gale's father. Following her father's death, Prim suffered intense emotional distress and trauma while her mother spiraled into deep depression. Katniss describes Prim as being scared of her own shadow. Following the father's death, the family was plunged into poverty, though the capital gave them money which was meant to sustain them for a month, after which her mother was expected to work and care for her children. She remained in a zoned-out, depressed state. Katniss had to step up to find food for her family, while Prim remained the emotional support for her mother. This connection with her mother during the moment of grief is probably when Prim's mother showed her the basics of being a healer, as the mother acted as the healer in their district. Katniss also tried to get Prim into hunting but failed because Prim just couldn't take a life because of her affinity for living creatures. All she wanted to do was help these animals. This led to Katniss giving up on teaching Prim to hunt. Prim has the world's ugliest cat, Buttercup, at least according to Katniss. Prim loves life, she signifies hope. This is mostly seen on how she treats the injured and how she cares for animals, even her cat. Katniss hates this cat so much that she once tried to drown him in a bucket when Prim first brought him home. I have no idea if the hate was because the cat is ugly, with his mashed-in nose, half of one ear missing, eyes the color of rotten squash, his belly swollen with worms, crawling with fleas, or because he was another mouth to feed. Considering their suffering, perhaps Prim brought the cat home because it needed saving and that took priority over their hunger. She begged so hard to keep the cat that Katniss eventually agreed. The cat turned out fine after their mother got rid of the vermin. Being a bum mouser, he catches the occasional rat, which ends up helping to feed himself. This cat becomes an emotional support to Prim throughout this trilogy. On the day of Prim's 10th birthday, Katniss used the money she got from selling a buck to buy Prim a goat. Knowing she loved animals, Katniss got the goat much cheaper because she was injured. Prim, with the help of their mother, brought the goat back to health, and she named her Lady. Lady ended up being very essential to the family's situation, and she also gave Prim a job. Beyond her love for animals, Prim was the anchor for Katniss' humanity in their daily struggle for survival. Prim always drags Katniss towards the baker's window to look at the frosted and decorated cakes, confirmed to be for New Year's and birthdays. It is such a small thing, but it shows that Prim still notices beauty, still pauses to admire sweetness, even in a place like District 12. One day, Katniss took Prim to the meadow with a bucket to collect dandelions, which they ate along with the bread Peter Malak threw to her when she was starving. This is how Katniss protects Prim. She didn't tell Prim how she almost starved to death before Peter saved her with the bread. Katniss does not discuss the raping, the food shortage, or the Hunger Games. She keeps that worry away from her. Prim is the only person in the world that Katniss is certain she loves. She reflects on this after Gale suggests they could leave District 12 before the reaping for the 74th Hunger Games. On the day of the reaping for the 74th Hunger Games, Prim gives Katniss goat cheese wrapped in basil leaves. She wears Katniss' first reaping outfit, a skirt and a ruffled blouse. It's a bit big on her, but their mother had made it stay in place with pins. Even so, she keeps having trouble keeping the blouse tucked in at the back. When Katniss notices that Prim's blouse has pulled out again at the back, she forces herself to stay calm, but she can't quite manage it. She tells her, "Tuck your tail in, little dog." Prim giggles and gives a small quack. Katniss replies, "Quack yourself." This is Katniss' way of lightening her mood. Katniss protects Prim in every way she can, but she's powerless against the ripping. Katniss refused to let Prim take tesserae just to protect her from the ripping. Instead, she signed up for extra tesserae herself and traded in the hub to keep them safe. But unfortunately, the odds were not in her favor in the 74th Hunger Games ripping. When Prim's name was called, the crowd was unhappy. Many people liked her. They always react this way when a 12-year-old is chosen, because no one thinks it is fair. Prim was also known for helping her mother tend to the sick, which may be why she was loved by so many. Katniss volunteers for Prim because of love and because she knows Prim would not survive the games. She doesn't even know how to hunt. Her nature is to save, not to kill. District 12 hasn't had a volunteer in decades. Volunteers are scarce there. In 74 years, District 12 has produced only 2 victors, so the word volunteer is almost synonymous with the word corpse because no tribute returns. When Katniss volunteered for her, Prim wrapped her arms around her, screaming, "No, Katniss," and refusing to let go. Katniss kept telling her to let go harshly, even though it hurt her to do so. It was Gale who finally pulled Prim away. Katniss never wanted that moment to make her cry or appear weak, so she acted strong, even though it was deeply upsetting. She understood that weakness would only make it harder for Prim. This act of volunteering made Katniss different. It made her stand out. That was when the people of District 12 touched the 3 middle fingers of their left hand to their lips and held them out towards her. It was an old and rarely used gesture of the district, occasionally seen at funerals. It meant thanks, it meant admiration, it meant goodbye to someone they loved. When Katniss was about to leave for the 74th Hunger Games, she advised Prim not to take tesserae. Even at that moment, when her own survival should have been the focus, she was still trying to protect her sister's future. The immediate problem was surviving the games, yet her mind remained on Prim. Katniss also tells her mother that she cannot clock out and leave Prim on her own. There is no Katniss now to save them. She knows what happened after their father died and she refuses to let that happen again. Prim reassures her saying, "I'll be alright, but you have to take care too. You are so fast and brave. Maybe you can win." Katniss later swears to Prim that she will try to win. Peter's father also promises Katniss that he will make sure Prim is eaten. Even in the capital, before the games truly begin, Rue reminds Katniss of Prim, her gentleness, her smallness, her innocence. During the 74th Hunger Games, Katniss constantly thinks about Prim, what she might be doing, whether she's sleeping well, whether she's eating enough, and whether she's keeping up. Even in the arena, her mind drifts back home. She often has nightmares of her mother withdrawn and unreachable again, with Prim emaciated and terrified. The fear is not just death in the arena, it is what might happen to Prim if Katniss is no longer there. Prim's cry was also used to torture Katniss in the arena through the Jabberjays. Hearing her sister's voice scream in pain was meant to break her, but Peter makes her understand that Prim must still be alive because they are almost at the final 8, and at that point, they always interview the families and friends back home. Following the destruction of District 12, Prim and her mother set up a medical area for the injured. They tried to treat people with whatever they could gather from the woods. Even after losing everything, Prim's instinct was still to heal. Somehow, even Buttercup, her cat, survived this destruction. When Katniss was thinking about becoming the Mockingjay and worrying about Peter, it was Prim who gave her crucial advice. She tells her, "Katniss, I don't think you understand how important you are to the cause. Important people usually get what they want. If you want to keep Peter safe from the rebels, you can." When Katniss asked if she demands Peter's immunity, would they approve? Prim responds, I think you could demand almost anything and they would have to agree to it. Prim almost got herself killed during the Capitol's attack just to save Buttercup. In the middle of everything collapsing, she still chose to protect something smaller than herself. That says a lot about her values. She does not weigh life based on usefulness or appearance. Even a cat's life is worth it, even if she has to put herself in danger for it. This is consistent with who she has always been. In District 13, Prim started taking medical courses. Even there, in another underground world, preparing for war, she continued choosing healing. When Katniss was worried about Peter, about what the Capitol was doing to him, and whether they had killed him after he leaked the planned attack on District 13, it was Prim who tried to steady her. She told her, Katniss, I don't think President Snow will kill Peter. If he does, he won't have anyone left that you want. He won't have any way to hurt you. Honestly, Prim's wisdom at this point was beyond her age. When Peter returned to District 13 from the Capitol's captivity, hijacked, Prim was still hopeful. She wanted the whole situation to be reversible. She kept that hope alive. She believed they could bring Peter back, that the hijacking could be undone. They tried. The result was more confusion, but it was still an attempt. Prim was not even 14, not old enough to be a soldier, yet she was sent to the front line by President Coin. This may have been Coin's way of getting her killed in the process, or she may have chosen to get involved in saving people injured by war. To be significant in this rebellion tragedy led by her sister, was she guilty that this burden was never originally meant for her, and that it only happened because Katniss volunteered to take her place? In the end, she died trying to save casualties, mostly children injured by the bomb disguised as the Capitol's handwork. But the irony was that the bomb was Gale and Beatty's idea, designed to maximize casualties by detonating into two phases. Unfortunately, Prim was killed in the second phase explosion because she ran in to save casualties of the first phase bomb without knowing that the second phase would happen. Her sister Katniss recognized her on the front line and remembered the two-phase bomb idea that Gale shared with her, though she was against it. The bombs were dropped by a hovercraft bearing the Capitol seal, which is why the medics, including Prim, rushed in, thinking they were safe from their own side. Katniss immediately put it together and called for Prim, but it was already too late. Gale, who helped build the trap that took her, never truly found the words to say sorry, leaving a rift between him and Katniss that even the end of the war couldn't bridge. When President Coin later proposed a Hunger Games using Capitol children, Katniss voted yes for Prim, but it was an agreement in disguise, an opportunity to avenge Prim's death. It was her way of gaining Coin's trust so she could carry out her final act of revenge. Katniss kills President Coin for Prim. Back in District 12, Peter gives Katniss a primrose flower to plant in memory of Prim. Prim echoes the sacrificial lamb, the healer matter, the lost child of war. She represents innocence under tyranny, the moral cost of war, the fragility of hope, and the reason power must be questioned. Without her death, there is no moral awakening. Prim was the spark that started the fire and the silence that followed it. Her memory remains a reminder of why we must protect the most vulnerable. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time.